Joe and I were going through some DFS potential lineups here. In one episode, we talked about a lineup that you could possibly build with three really phenomenal wide receivers. Today, we are going to also put out an episode here about what do you do if you're going to be that guy or that girl who goes after top tier running backs. So let's do it. Local football flavor.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, where we talk to local fans to get the real information of what's going on with their team. Yeah, welcome back, team players. We thank you all for clicking like and subscribe as you have. And yes, let's talk about running backs, man. So in the DSF world, we're doing this on FanDuel. It's half PPR. So let's go into and look at some matchups here, because I personally feel, as we were having that discussion before about trying to get the maximum value, is that there are some traps at the top of this board that, even though the names are great, I'm not sure the matchups are going to be awesome. And I look at that, and I just want to start with that statement up front. But that being said, I do see some really big potentials to blow the thing out of the park, and want to see what direction you're thinking here, Bob. So yeah, full board, full money. Who's your pick at running back? No questions asked. Who's the guy you have to have?
So it's actually kind of three guys here that I'm thinking about.
Okay, well, we got a flex, so we can do all
There's
three.
Traps at the top, but I think when we look at what's happening here, I think Joe Mixon at 8,300 is potentially your running back du jour this week. When you look at that game, we already talked about when we were talking about the reason why we would want Jamar Chase, the reason why we're picking Dalton Schultz, the reason why we were almost going to pick Cincinnati's defense. I think Joe Mixon is the guy that you're looking at here. This game is probably going to get out of line really fast. I mean, everybody's saying that Cooper Rush. Zeke is probably going to keep Dallas in this game longer than they should be in this game. Cooper Rush could surprise people and do actually really well, but we're talking about a former Super Bowl, playing team that took a really, really good Pittsburgh offense, or really good Pittsburgh defense, a long time to put down. And Joe Mixon he put up 18 points last week. He has the potential to throw up a game where where he puts up 50 yards, and that's what happens because Jamar Chase takes over. But for the same reason we picked Jamar Chase, that he's matchup proof, I think in this regard, Joe Mixon could be your guy this week. That at 8,300 it's at the top of the list, but I don't think it's a trap. I think it's a really good starting point that you could really build off of. The other guy I'm looking at here, James Conner. I know most people hate James Conner for, being injury prone or, not being where he should be at in his career or whatnot. But Las Vegas's defense, their defensive line, looked really, really good. I'm not too sure this game isn't going to get out of whack. So James Conner, I don't think will be taken out of the game script early. But if you click on his stats from last week, just click on his stats from last week for me for a moment on FanDuel. He had one touchdown, 26 rushing yards, which is not good. He had 5 receptions, which is okay, right? But I think the game was out of line for them too early. He was taken out of the game script. Kyler Murray was forced to do what he did. I think Las Vegas, I think that game is much more manageable for them. Even though the beta for Call of Duty is out, I think that this is going to be a guy that you could potentially build a lineup off of. I could be incorrect here in thinking that, but I think at the 7,600 price point, it provides you a good opportunity, particularly when we're looking at the top tier of that board, like Fournette, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara are hurt.
Yeah. That's the thing. The question for me would be, do you want to entertain Saquon? Saquon to me is the one who's up top, who looks really good. Carolina got run all over by Nick Chubb. In fact, they're still getting run all over by Nick Chubb. And Saquon Barkley in that second half of that game against Tennessee basically took it over, and he was without a doubt the best running back on that field. I know King Henry was there, but Saquon made him look like he was in the shadow. And if I were going to push back and say if we're going for the super elite running backs, I feel like we should put Saquon in there. I think Saquon
I say you put Saquon down at the flex. I mean,
all right.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. That game, Carolina and the Giants, that game's going to be a slog. It's going to be a game where both quarterbacks are, I mean, and Dave could tell you this about Baker Mayfield. You could tell us about this about Baker Mayfield too. We don't really know what's going on with Baker Mayfield. We don't really know.
Almost a lot.
You know, we can talk to our guys in the Giants world, about Daniel Jones. We don't really know what the potential there is. So whatever scoring happens is probably going to be coming from the running backs in here. And it's hard to pass on Saquon when he's $1,300 less than Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Especially after the game they performed. I expect a letdown this week, but I don't expect a game where it is going to be let down that much. But it is a dangerous game. Like you said, there's potential for a lot of traps up here. And for the same reason you say that, Cleveland's still running over Carolina.
Chubb was very appealing to me.
Chubb is still appealing.
If there's a way where we can build this lineup and get Chubb in there over James Conner, I would really like to do it. That being said, you made a good argument for James Conner, and I don't want to start with that much expenditure because we do still have to build.
Yeah, and if we look at James Conner from last year, I mean, the guy put up an amazing amount of touchdowns, a decent amount of yards. He is the guy when it comes to the red zone when DeAndre Hopkins isn't there. He's not going to be your guy so much as, getting a bunch of yards. But when we're talking about, really good potential here, Arizona's going to be in the red zone a lot more, I feel. James Conner is going to be a guy. You got to look out for Zach Ertz, of course, who could steal, and Kyler Murray, who could just run it in himself. But I think they trust James Conner enough in these situations where, yeah, he might put up 40 yards, but he could get 2 touchdowns, and that's probably going to be enough this week out of a running back position that has a lot of injuries on this board. I think it's hard to sell at that price. You're still at 3,500 here. We talked about building the lineup with wide receivers. Now we're talking about the running backs. You could potentially put Jonathan Taylor in here. I don't see Jonathan Taylor as being terrible. I mean, Jacksonville's defense.
Jacksonville's a very good front throw, and they don't win in Jacksonville. Taylor concerns me a little bit.
But the script, I don't think Jacksonville's going to get up on a big lead, and I think Taylor. I mean,
Taylor's how they used to fight back without Pittman in it.
You can look this up, but Jonathan Taylor gets a sneaky 100 yards.
He does it all the time. Yeah, I'm not fighting at all. He is an easy floor of getting 11 points.
He has a high ceiling and high floor.
Yeah.
And when you think about the DFS lineup, high ceilings, high floors
are expensive.
And you could see that in here. Like James Conner has a very low ceiling or a low
floor, but high ceiling.
A high ceiling. And so it's priced right. The prices are,
Yeah, so I guess at the end of the day, just the question here of Saquon or McCaffrey. Like I said, I'm leaning Saquon.
For the extra $200, I don't feel like McCaffrey is the play.
Okay, fair enough. So let's take a look, see at the quarterbacks and see, since this is the running one, see if there's a running quarterback that we like here.
Lamar Jackson. I mean, and to a grosser extent, for the $700 less, you could look at Trey Lance.
The one I actually want to look for, I haven't seen his name yet in terms of running quarterbacks.
You might not find him, because he's in the later game.
Hurts?
Mm-hmm.
This has all the games, Bob.
Mm-mm. If you look, all of these games, I'm talking about this is not the Sunday night or Monday night game.
Oh, it doesn't have
So
the late slate.
You're not gonna find Hurts. You're not gonna find Fields. You're not gonna find Rodgers.
Okay, that's fine.
That's just the way it goes. I think 2 quarterbacks you got to look out for here if you're looking for rushing totals. Lamar Jackson could go back to his regular form against Miami. Trey Lance had a decent amount of attempts last week. It was a gross field. Like we said when we were talking about Debo, San Francisco had 140 yards rushing at home, averaging last year, right? That Trey Lance could be the guy there. At 7,500, I don't know if I want to take that.
Yeah, it seems a little pricey.
It seems pricey, but he had 10 points last week. I don't really want 10 points from my quarterback. If you all watched the Aaron Rodgers episode, yeah, I don't want a low floor quarterback. I do it too much. If we're going for the gusto here, it's not really what I want.
Yeah, if we're going for the gusto, I think the answer is Lamar. I do. I mean, because at the end of the day, that
he's the potential to put up 40 points.
At the end of the day, that's the team that destroyed Lamar's career last year was Miami. So maybe Lamar should be avoided as we say that out loud, and maybe you lean a little bit more towards Murray or Here, explain this to me, Bob. How is Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance both 7,500? This is a DSF aside.
Because Jimmy Garoppolo put up 14 points, and they're looking at that 14 points and saying, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo came into that game, right? But I'm looking here, and it says he played 18 games. I think they screwed something up here.
Yeah, they must. He didn't play last week, so that's importing his last year's stats.
Click on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the 2021
they're going
stats.
off his last year's stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an aberration. Ignore
it.
That
must just be speculation. He's going to come into the game.
I'd
like Russell Wilson in this game, as we're talking about rushing quarterbacks. I know he's not
as much as he used to.
Yeah.
Houston against Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt Ryan looked like Matt Ryan. But Russell Wilson has 2 very speedy, very capable wide receivers. You're talking about a Houston game where it's probably going to be a game. He's going to pass it. He's probably not going to rush it a lot. But if I'm looking for a quarterback building a lineup with these running backs, it's going to set me up to get some wide receivers. I might take Russell Wilson. Now, I don't feel like we should, we're getting the cart ahead of the horse here because we still got four lineup positions here in $2,700. Russell Wilson might not be the play there, but we can.
Let's look a little lower then and maybe get a Mariota was acceptable in his previous game.
If we're going running quarterbacks, and we want to keep true to what we wanted to do, we could go there.
Also go Lawrence. I can see Lawrence having a much better game here.
It's funny, though, you say that because I took Trevor Lawrence's rushing total last week to be over 12 yards, and he had like -7. So, yeah. It's the jury is still out on that. For the same reason, we like Chubb and, Kareem Hunt. The New York Jets defense was proven against Lamar Jackson that they are exploitable. Jacoby Brissett at $6,600. That could be a potential play in a lineup like this where we still maybe want to go out and get a number 1 wide receiver on a team. We're back to Mitch Trubisky again.
I don't want to overlap from the last team.
Exactly. But when you go down this far and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going, they're going to have
Mills might be the play.
you're going to have some values that are just really, really bad values. Geno Smith is not the play. San Francisco's defense is
now we're in
good.
backups.
Well, they're pricing those backups based off of last season. So
yeah, I understand that, but
keep going. See if there's anybody that we haven't hit yet.
That actually will hit but none of these guys are going to hit the field. So
yeah, Cooper
so
Rush.
none of them are worth it. You want to go with Coop? We know he's going to play.
He's $6,100. That makes 0 sense.
Oh, that's apparently the cheapest a quarterback can be, Bob.
That makes 0 sense. That's
we
crazy.
got guys who are never going to hit
Josh
the field,
Rosen.
never have hit the field, or 6,000.
6,000. I mean, that's just embarrassing.
He probably will be running for his life, though.
Yeah, but if we want to top out, I'm not. I would rather spend the extra $400 not to have him on my team.
All right, so that's looking now like Mills.
Yeah, I think Davis Mills is a perfectly acceptable option. Like we talked about, we usually want to stay away from guys going into Denver. But, he has talent on his team. Yes, is it the best talent? No. But Denver also doesn't seem to have a very talented defense. It could be exploitable for the same reason. For the same reason that you wanted to pick Melgore, Davis Mills. He when they get down to the red zone, Rex Burkhead, Dameon Pierce, Davis Mills.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that argument. Let's try to get our cost back in line. So why don't we go to the defenses here and see if there's kind of a lower grade one that we might be happy with. I know we had a long conversation about Cincinnati. I kind of just want to start with them. Again, playing the whole Cooper Rush train and just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily do that one. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, I've seen TikToks and I've seen some YouTubes. I don't know who's put out this information. I can't remember. But the books are being really nice to New England.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but with a banged up Najee Harris and Mitch Trubisky, for the same reason we picked Mitch Trubisky in our other lineup. I mean, the Steelers' offense has not been humming the last few years or the last year.
Yeah,
so
few years is true.
And so New England is an interesting option here. I don't think they have the turnover potential, but if we want to think about it, we can. The other thing here is I'm staying away from the Detroit game.
Mm-hmm.
They do have the potential to put up some points, sure. Like I said, Seattle's defense is awful. Atlanta's facing the Rams, which could be a destruction mode. Mm-hmm. The Jets are facing Cleveland. They might be another choice there. But I think not picking Cincinnati in this situation would be a bad move.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is the go-ahead play. So do you want to go to what, receiver or tight end now?
I want to get at least one wide receiver because I feel like TJ Hawkinson at 5,700 at tight end is probably going to be a good value here at tight end.
All right, well, let's just put that in then now and put in the Hawk and then just finish out the receiver. So 64 average here on our receivers. So we can kind of go a little bit higher, but not crazy high. Like we're not going to be able to afford Cooper Kupp, but we might be able to start swinging here on the upper sevens and then know we're going to take one in the fives.
All right. So the guy I'm targeting here at this value, Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you don't have him in your lineup, if you don't have him in your fantasy lineups, he has from last year been a statistical anomaly that I have not seen in a long time.
Okay.
If you look at his stats from last week, and if it goes back to last year, if you're able to get his game log from last year, I don't know if you are.
I can't.
If you look at that, 8 of 12 targets.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Jared
most targets in the league last week.
Jared Goff is going to get him the ball. The other thing is, last year, after I think their bye week, he was getting 100-yard games like nobody else's business. And the Commanders' defense is not very good. From them being good a couple of years ago, they are not good. And this game, everybody's writing it off that it could be a potential shootout here. The writing is on the wall. Detroit, when they played, the Eagles, if you're building a lineup that has three powerful running backs in it, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6,900 is your guy.
Perfect. Well, I like that analysis as well here. So why don't we go down here, just drop it down a little bit.
And for the same reason that we said Amon-Ra St. Brown is your guy, you got to decide between Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy this week, because Michael Pittman played really, really well against Houston last week. Michael Pittman's banged up this week. We don't know yet what that split is going to look like. If we look back at targets from last week, we'll just pull it up on ESPN.
Courtland Sutton got 7 targets last week,
and he got 72 yards.
Jeudy also got 7 targets. He just did a lot more with them.
So other than that big breakout for the touchdown, right, we're looking at very similar numbers.
Yes, we are.
This is the same situation we were in with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett when
he was there,
when Russell Wilson was there.
And since the targets were the same, I want to lean towards the higher production, the more yards per catch, and that's going to be leaning towards Jeudy.
And I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Perfect. Well, now we're here
at 6,100.
And there's going to be some values here at that. Russell Gage is sneaky,
actually,
especially with Godwin being out.
I want you to go to TJ Hawkinson, please.
Go to the Hawk. Okay.
And I want you go down. Okay, freeze it. For the same reason I like James Conner, I also like Zach Ertz at 5,200.
Okay.
Put Zach Ertz into the lineup. We'll talk about him later. Go back to wide receivers and go to Rashad Bateman.
Oh, look at this. Perfectly fitting it in there.
So this is a potential that could smack. It might not. But if we're going through 3 of these middle-of-the-road wide receivers here that aren't really middle of the road, they're actually super talented.
Oh, they're super talented. So, but each of them have their own. St. Brown's a tremendous value.
Yeah, and click on Rashard Bateman for me for a moment there.
The thing with Bateman is the question is Lamar trying to become a passer, or is he just not? But you see, he got 5 targets, and he only brought in 2 of them, but he brought in the touchdown.
Right.
So
for your volume-based play, Rashard Bateman could be not your best play. Now, out of that. If you watched our other DFS lineup, we were debating Curtis Samuel. Go to Curtis Samuel for a moment. Place him in the lineup.
Instead of Bateman?
Instead of Bateman, put in Curtis Samuel.
I also like Juju or Claypool in this play.
Okay. Now we have $900 more to work with. And you're telling me that you might wanted to upgrade James Conner to Nick Chubb. Do that.
All right.
You should have enough money to do it.
We have exactly enough money to do that. Talk about a stacked running back lineup, Bob. You just nailed it here.
And so you zero out with arguably your weakest position being your quarterback.
Yes. But still potential to be in a garbage game throwing up weak touchdowns late.
Precisely. You're not. This lineup, we constructed it in 24 minutes here. We can definitely get another lineup out to you where we really go hard on a different position. But if you go with this lineup versus our other lineup, the other lineup that we put out there, you're going to be probably holding on to the edge of your seat the whole game. You're probably going to be thinking to yourself, is it better to go after those top flight wide receivers? Because what you have here in 3 wide receivers that are in the 6,000, 5,000 range, you have volume, you have boom potential. Yes, they could very well, Jerry Jeudy could very well put up 4 points. Curtis Samuel could very well put up 4 points. But you at least know that your running backs that that you picked are going to get the ball.
You have a high floor with this ceiling.
Joe
with this
Mixon,
lineup.
Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, they're the stars. They're stars. You might not like Nick Chubb, you might not like Joe Mixon, but they're stars. Chase is going to take some time away from them, but if that game gets out of control early, Mixon's your guy. He could put up 120 yards, get a touchdown and a couple of receptions. I mean, what do you think?
I like it. I like this combination here. I think that it's something worth attacking here. And again, we're doing the 50-50 league. So with how high this floor is, I see very strong likelihood that ends up being in the top half of the league that we're in.
Right. I mean, I think it has really good potential. Now
I do too. So let's submit it, man. Perfect. I like when we use all the money too.